Hello, I want to welcome Sonia Miller to the Butterfly Effect and you all. And Sonia is a teacher, a coach, and a best-selling author.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I would love for you to share a little bit about what brought you on your journey that you're on right now.
Well, it's been an organic journey. I've been working kind of officially as a coach since 1996. Back before coaches were big, I had to come up with a name for what I did, which is a personal success facilitator.
Uh-huh.
And then the coaching industry started to come online. But before that, I was a assistant vice president at a brokerage firm trading stocks and bonds. And so I kind of think of my official start as doing what I thought I was supposed to do, to be a good citizen and self-sufficient after college. And then I started doing that, and I was a really good achiever. But over 5 years, I felt like I was dying a spiritual death. And so, over 5 years of trading stocks and bonds by day, and then going to this place called the Healers Resource Center evenings and taking all kinds of spiritual classes, I realized my happiness and my fulfillment was not going to be found in manifesting things, and I had to turn within. So, I moved from Massachusetts to California. I embarked on a deep and unfolding organic spiritual journey and a lot of study and personal growth. And one thing led to another, and I created my work, Success for the Soul.
Yeah. Is there anything in your life that you personally overcame from being on this journey? Because I know a lot of people are struggling with a lot of stuff in their life. Is there anything, any big shifts that you made through this journey that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think the biggest shift occurred over what I call the crash and burn period of my life. So I had achieved quite a bit of success. I wrote my book. I had clients around the world. I'd overcome a lot of obstacles. So I figured, my book's called The Attraction Distraction. So it is a book about the law of attraction.
Yeah.
And my personal journey really got me to this place where I thought, you know what, I've got this manifestation stuff down. Like, I've got it. And my whole point with the book was to really illuminate the places that people were struggling, the places where people say, well, I'm saying the affirmations and I'm doing the visualizations and it's still not working. Why? It was to answer the
Yeah.
question, why isn't it working when it's not working? So I wrote the book I wished I'd had. I'd achieved a lot of success. I overcame infertility, I overcame bulimia. I met my soulmate when I thought it would never happen for me. My business was successful, up level in life from suburbia to owning a vineyard. So it looked really great. Like, wow, she really must know what she's doing. And um, then just back to back hardships hit me. It started with my mom getting cancer, and I became her caregiver for 4 years. Found myself in a contentious legal dispute over the vineyard. My marriage ended in a very unexpected, shocking way. And I had like 7 to 8 hardships where it really caused me to look at, wow, here I thought I knew how to manifest. How could this be happening in my life?
Yeah.
And so I really had to let these external sorts of ways of being validated for my worth and my value just fall away. And I was really left with myself.
Yeah.
And even though I intellectually knew that source was my source, I actually had the direct experience of having to surrender so completely that I opened up to the experience of source being my source, really. And really, that final embodiment piece of what I knew in my mind,
Yeah.
which has then, led to the evolution of my work as it is today.
Yeah. That's so amazing that you were able to overcome all of those things. And I know a lot of people are struggling with stuff like bulimia and infertility. Would you care to share a little bit more about like what that was like for you and just your process of overcoming that? Just because I know that there's so many people out there that will resonate with that and they're struggling still.
Right. Well, as far as bulimia goes, while it was probably the very first catalyst in my life for some really deep healing, like most people who struggle with bulimia or weight or any kind of eating disorder, what they do that doesn't work is they have a relationship with all of with themselves, with food in their bodies, it's based in control.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter what you're dealing with, whether you want money, weight loss, eating disorders, relationships, whatever. What we tend to do is we try to achieve what we want through getting control. So control is the illusion of power, and it's always outer focus. It's about controlling conditions in our lives or controlling ourselves.
Yeah.
And as long as you're operating from control, trying to control things in your outer world, and for me that was, the case with bulimia. What control really is saying in consciousness at the deeper level is, I am not what I wish to be. I don't have what I wish to be. So it's like, I am not thin, I am not beautiful, I am not enough, I am not lovable. So there's no relationship with these aspects of self. And you're furthermore saying, I'm separate from all of this. It's out there in a finish line, a goal, a number, a sense of certainty, like all of these control factors. And so for me, when I finally got to the place that I was just like at my, dropped to my knees, it's like, I've got to find a solution to this. There's that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah.
And of course I did. I was guided to a teacher who taught me that it has nothing to do with food. It's
Yeah.
all about my relationship with my emotions. And it was really about stuffing my emotions. And so bulimia was the doorway to literally learning how to feel, because I had a relationship with my emotions. Like I always talk about, I manifested the perfect parents. My father was like Mr. Spock, where emotions are bad and you should rise above them.
Yeah.
My mother was really arbitrary in my emotions, so that was scary. And so I learned basically how to feel my feelings, like baby steps from step 0, and learning how to feel my feelings, and then learning how to really meet the internal need that had been neglected. And as
Yeah.
I did that, then I learned some behavioral things around food and how to, but it was really about turning within and understanding that it's not about control, it's about something deeper. And so I'm really passionate about really illuminating the distinction between control and true power. And we don't tend to be willing to discover our true power until every last shred of an illusion of control falls away. And that's what the crash and burn period was about. It's like, I have no control. I can't even pretend I have control. So how do you
Yeah.
feel powerful when you can't control anything? And that's what's happening in the world today, is as many scary world events are happening, we're all getting an opportunity. Like, how do I feel powerful when I can't control any of this? Like, where's my true power?
Yeah.
And it's within. So that's what I'm passionate about
Yeah.
supporting.
I love it. You shared a little bit about your guidance to your teacher. What was that experience for you, and how did you realize that you were guided to, like, that you get guidance on your journey?
Yeah. Well, for me, I think the first part was that I had to really it's kind of like, I know in 12-step programs, there's a saying, which is, hitting rock bottom, or, there, but for the grace of God or a higher power source, go I. I had to get to the point first of getting sick, being sick and tired of being sick and tired of this purgatory, this
Yeah.
secret pain, shame that was all mine. And so I had to get tired of trying to control my body and food. I had to get to the point where the spell of that bulimia dynamic was just like, I can't do this anymore. So I had to do that. And then, because there was so much shame around it, when I had the internal shift of, I need help. Once that shift in consciousness happens, when you say, I surrender, I need help, all of a sudden you can see what's always been there. And so, of course, what appeared for me was this little ad in the learning annex that was a psychologist who taught how to develop a healthy relationship with food in your body. So I went to the learning annex. And it was really interesting because there were probably like 30 people there. And one of the first, actually, this wasn't a psychologist, this was a social worker. And one of the first things she said, she goes, this is not a diet. If you're here to diet, if you want to diet and you want to lose weight, this is not for you. But if you want to learn how to develop a healthy relationship with food in your body, then here's a path for you.
Yeah.
Well, the next class, there was probably 1/3 of the people left, so it was really about following what showed up in my life, And I knew that I had to do something other than the diet control mentality, but it just showed up, and I really had to get to that something's got to change point.
Yeah. I think that surrender is really a key, and a lot of people might not understand it, but also it sounds like you were open to receiving the guidance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you care to share a little bit about being open to receiving?
Oh, well, it's funny because, being open to receiving, one of the things I'm really passionate about these days, like what I'm teaching now, is how to receive.
Yeah.
And I've really come to the very clear awareness that most of us have no idea how to receive. We work in a culture that's a lot of reward and a lot of validation for the hard work ethic.
Yeah.
So no pain, no gain, and you got to give to get, and that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of reasons for that, um, which we don't have to go into now. But the main idea, knowing, I like to say that just because struggle is all you've ever known doesn't mean it's the only way.
Yeah.
So receiving is really about shifting from a masculine energy of doing to a feminine energy of being. And it's about being willing to discover the power of being. Most of us, I mean, it is such a foreign concept because we've been so rewarded for how we think, and the action and the doing and the pursuing and the timelines and the accountability goals, and very much hunter warrior,
Yeah.
that because that's where most of us stand, even if we're open to this idea of, oh, there's another way. So the feminine model of power is rooted in being, and being is about feeling, experiencing, surrendering, opening, all of these internal states. Most of us, even if we understand that in our minds, we have no idea, how is that powerful? How does it even produce anything in my life?
Hmm.
So what happens is the masculine looks at the feminine and says, oh, you're not in action, you're not thinking, you're not examining, you're not pursuing, but it can only see being through that lens. So it looks at being and says, weak, passive, lazy, unmotivated. It's like the mind can't conceive of the power of being. But being, my two favorite metaphors for being is the flower, if you lean towards, like, if you're identify more with that.
Yeah.
For men, it tends to be about the farmer. Okay, so the farmer also can't hunt and pursue and examine for it to cultivate its dominion, which is himself. And the flower, all she does is she's rooted in the earth, and she receives everything she needs all day long: the sun, the water, everything that she needs to live, to grow, and to blossom and to thrive. And on top of that, she contributes to the planet because she attracts bees and animals and people that are inspired from her, that spread what she has to offer. She feeds the world. She inspires spirituality and peace and meditation and rest and all of these things. So she's not examining anything. She's not pursuing anything. But for the masculine, you hunt and capture. That's how we manifest. Okay. The feminine receives and reveals. Manifestation is about revealing, revealing, revealing. But
Yeah.
the key to receiving is unlearning being selective. Because what we tend to do is we receive what we want and we push away what we don't want. And that interrupts the flow. So when we learn how to receive everything, even the things we don't like, and how to feel empowered around the things that we would normally resist, how to relate to that, then we start to tap into receiving. And the universe and life is benevolent. So when you're ready to receive, it's there. It just shows up, which is what happened with the bulimia and everything else that, after that crash and burn period, I couldn't even believe the gifts, the blessings. I found love again, and my business thrived, and my kids thrived, and just like what was revealed just came to me, but I had to get to that place of receptivity.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Just, I love the way that you described all of that. Would you say that, so apart from like just being, what were some of the other keys to receiving? Do you have any other tips?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because this morning I was thinking I might do a video, which is, what is like the number one tip, the most tangible, easy, concrete tip to unlearn struggle. Because here's the thing, when we unlearn struggle, receiving just happens naturally. We just
Yeah.
have to learn how to stop struggling. So I realized that if all anybody did was they turned their phone, they give their phone a new job description, okay, which is to be a source of spiritual nourishment instead of a source of struggle. Most of what happens with our phone is we wake up in the morning, most people I talk to, the alarm goes off, maybe their phone's their alarm, they pick it up, email, social media, ding, 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 texting. I mean, it's just like immediately got to interact with the world.
Yeah.
And what I thought would be a great tip is if instead you say, when that first alarm goes off, you set up your phone with your apps, with your links, whatever you need to do. And there's a guided meditation, 5, 10, 15 minutes. And the
Yeah.
first thing you do is the alarm goes off, you roll over. I don't care if you're staying in bed. I don't care if you fall back asleep. You go click and you receive a guided meditation. You let it nourish you. Okay. You let your mind rest instead of wake up and start reacting and engaging with the
Yeah.
physical world. That alone sets you up for the whole day because you're receiving nourishment. Your mind is at rest. Any guided meditation that makes you feel good will help. That is the best way to open up to receiving in a very tangible sort of way.
Yeah, I see that you're very passionate about it, so it must have impacted your life. Is that something that you have been doing for a while?
Oh yeah, yeah. When I was actually like still navigating the crash and burn period, I got to a point, here was a single mom taking care of 2 kids, a primary provider, running a business, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, because I felt like thrust into survival mode with all of the loss that I'd experienced, this tremendous loss. And just as a mother, just like my kids had to be okay, that my kids had to be okay. And my business um, allowed me to not just provide for them in a physical way, but it gave me the flexibility and the autonomy to volunteer and be really present in their lives. But running your
Yeah.
own business, there were many times that I just said, can't I just get a job? And just like, it's like many times I looked at the job boards and anyway, I digress. But when the throes of anxiety and stress and tension and all of that, there came a moment where, and literally I'd get up, I'd hit the ground running, work, 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 send them off to school, clients, 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 work, work, work. I was only not working when they were home. But I would work from 6 in the morning till 11 at night and just be present. So there came a moment where I said, Sonia, something's got to give. And I decided, I don't care if I have to wake up at 5 in the morning. I'm going to start my day with meditating. So I did. I woke up, I was exhausted, but I'm like, I have to start the day a different way. And
Yeah.
when I started to do that, when I got up 30 minutes earlier and I'd have my tea ready and I would do a meditation. I have a friend who talks about meditation and he says, well, poop still falls from the sky, but you just don't care as much. But
Yeah.
it's true, like that battle with life starts to soften and rest. And that tills the soil to receive new seeds that
Yeah.
can grow.
Um, for you, did you do any intentional I mean, you said that I'm not sure if you shared exactly how you drew into your life what you wanted. Did you journal? What were some of those tips for like setting intention in your life, like for what
Yeah.
you wanted?
I did everything. I mean, I wrote a book about the law of attraction. So I came from a world of goal setting, and I even I developed a curriculum called the Ultimate Manifestation Intensive. And that's been my core curriculum for probably 10 years and, really well received. And I taught a process called how to develop soul-based goals.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find that is the most powerful way to set goals, because what happens is most people set goals in the outer world. I want a house, I want a car, I want to lose weight, I want more money, I want a promotion. I want. But the thing about goals is there's only one reason we have any goal ever. And that is because we're chasing a feeling. That's it.
Yeah.
So what happens is I want the house for, what's the feeling? Safety, security. I want the job for impact, power, acknowledgement, significance. I want more money for security, freedom. I mean, it's always a feeling. I want a relationship for love, connection, companionship. So I always say, when you start to focus on what you really want, which is the feeling, versus what you think you want, which is this outer world thing,
Yeah.
then you're much more empowered. So I always have people look at the way I approach goals is you focus on the essence, so the form will come. So the most important thing is ask yourself, what's the feeling I'm after?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And then our work, in order to receive it, is to shift from seeking to seeing, which is, if the feeling is one of contribution, let's say I want my business to be successful so I can feel like I'm making an impact in the world and contributing.
Yeah.
Where in my life do I already experience contribution? And to look for it, like just to have your eyes and ears open for that, even if it's a moment of like, wow, I made a difference. And then receive that feeling, like really breathe it in, really just like experience it fully. That's what receiving is. Receiving is an experience. It's
Yeah.
not a getting, it's not a having, it's not an acquiring, it's an experience. So as we shift into that, that's how I approached my goal setting, and that's really what kept the abundance flowing and revealing more and more.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I think, do you have any tips for people who have I think for me, in my own experience, not really knowing how to express myself, or not really even knowing who I was most of my life, um, I found it hard to start trusting myself. Do you have any tools you've used, or any advice you could share for people who might not know who they are and know deep down what they really want inside? Because for me, I had so much of the external world like tell me who I was supposed to be. So to discern like what I wanted, it was
Mhm.
challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, the bulimia for me was the beginning of that journey because, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you a story. As so the first thing, just as a tip, is when you don't know where to begin, be willing to find a teacher, and trust how it feels to be in the presence of that teacher. If you have somebody who's telling you what to do, just be a little bit wary about that, because you want a teacher who's going to guide you to look within and who can hold space for you being in a discovery process. It's much more important that you have a teacher or a guide who asks you the right questions so you can look within, as opposed to gives you answers. And I remember my very first therapist, because I was so used to, just like you're saying, being told what to do.
Yeah.
And I was so used to being a people pleaser. It was, if somebody else told me what to do, I could do it. But who I was, no idea. No idea.
Yeah.
So when we don't even know where to begin, those are some tips about finding a teacher, a guide, a mentor who will hold space for you to be in a discovery process, who can hold space for you to be uncomfortable, because it's uncomfortable
Yeah.
sometimes. And sometimes it's painful and sometimes it's scary. So, and for some people, because they've never had that, start wherever you can. Meet yourself where you're at. If you can find books that you like, do books for a while. If you can find an online group that feels safe because you're in the comfort of your own home, do that. If that leads to one connection with a person in this group that you can have a friendship with that nurtures that, then take that next step. And then if you can find a teacher guide. So I know for me, it took me 3 years before I even trusted my therapist to actually tell him I still was doing the bulimia thing and I hadn't told him about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it took a long time. So I think gentleness and trusting that instinct about, like, does this person feel safe? Does this book, like, really check in with your body? That's the first step in, like, trusting yourself, is your body is telling you something. Listen. If you feel relief, that's good. Follow that. If you feel angst or anxiety, if it doesn't feel right, trust that. And actually, that was some guidance that I got from when I was trying to find my own therapist, my first one, because I didn't even know how to do that. I
Yeah.
was literally picking up the yellow pages and just, I'll try calling. And one very kind therapist man said, "Well, do you know how to find a therapist?" I said, "I have no idea." And he says, Every therapist should give you a no charge consultation just to talk to them, and then see how you feel with them. It was
Yeah.
so kind and great. And then that's what I want to pass that on to people. Like, trust how it feels and be guided by safety above all else. Once
Yeah.
you once you feel safe, you can be in a discovery process about that.
Yeah. That's such a great tip, because I know there's plenty of people out there that are in therapy or don't really know how to find a therapist.
Right.
One thing that's been big for me is a lot of people don't really understand that they carry trauma in their body, and the process of releasing it, instead of, a lot of us are dealing with pains and aches and other stuff going on in our body, and, using medications. So what was your process of shedding that, the trauma? Because
Yeah.
that's a part of this journey.
Absolutely. Well, I'll be honest. So I'm an energy healer. I've been doing energy healing since 1999, and 9 years prior to that, I was a recipient of it. So for me, shedding trauma began. First it began with talk therapy. You know, and I always joke about I was the talking head. That was part of the bulimia, like cut off from the neck down.
Yeah.
And then somebody turned me on to an energy healer, started doing energy healing, and that started to I started to see results where no amount of reading or talking or thinking or understanding, things were shifting in my life in a permanent way. And
Yeah.
there's so many. I always like to recommend for people who are looking for energy healers, a great resource is the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology, um, ASEP. And if you just Google that, I think it's energypsych.org. This is the first organization that I found that there's there's a lot of mental health professionals who integrate, these are licensed mental health professionals who integrate energy psychology in some way.
Yeah.
So you're not just going with anybody, because there's a high level of safety and integrity is very essential for dealing with trauma. So that was a huge part of my work. And then I just studied with many teachers so that I could offer that to my clients. Most recently, I started to dive into somatic work, somatic experiences, which is body based. And so Peter Levine, and there's a Pete Walker, complex PTSD, CPTSD, and Peter Levine. This is like the cutting edge sort of, or the most pioneering work around trauma. There's another one I'm currently reading called The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
And it's understanding that trauma is held in the body, in the nervous system. So there's modalities out there that I'm currently being certified for a modality called the closure technique that was founded by Marshall Bircher.
Hmm.
It is some of the fastest, most profound healing I've ever experienced. And this was the first time I was really doing the somatic work in a
Yeah.
guided way. So trauma is real. And for me, my highest recommendation is look up somatic experiencing, look at people who understand the connection between trauma and the body. You can't talk yourself out of trauma. You can't say affirmations. You can try it, but it's the slow path.
Yeah.
The body-based path is the fast path, and
Hmm.
healing is um, very high success rates with really resolving trauma when you deal with it through the body.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely been a key. And also for me, going for anybody that's new to this world, experiencing energy healing work is a whole different world. It's like if you've never, experienced it, just because we can feel energy, and it makes it so much more real for people. One of the things that I do say often is energy is everything.
It is.
Everything is energy. And people don't really think to that level, but if you think about it in that way, you can understand. And the connection that we truly have in this world, it's just beautiful the way that we can use these things to heal. So I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, I so appreciate what you're doing with this summit, and your passion about helping people and getting the word out. And I can feel the authentic passion and sincerity that you really embody what you're doing, and thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Like, I feel a little emotional. I mean, it definitely is because I've gone through my stuff and it's been challenging for me, and I don't want people to live the way that I was living, or however whatever they're going through. I know how painful it is.
Yeah.
You know, just like you and just like a lot of the people that I've connected to that are on this journey.
Mm.
And I just feel like more people need, like, I want more people to know, because I don't want to, you know, see people go through the suffering, you know? I want to
Mhm.
guide them on their journey of healing and let them know that it's so possible for us to heal.
Absolutely.
Um, is there anything else that comes up for you that you didn't get a chance to share, about your journey? Anything that your heart feels called to share? You have so much value, and if you want to share a little bit about your book or anything, um,
Yeah, I'm happy to. So, just some really easy access resources if this resonates for people. My book is called The Attraction Distraction: Why the Law of Attraction Isn't Working for You and How to Get Results Finally. So that basically is, the book. I wrote the book I wish I'd had on my journey that came out in 2008. It's on Kindle, it's on Amazon. And my current work is really about unlearning struggle to receive your fulfillment. And so I have a free masterclass. Just go to receiveclass.com. Anybody can sign up. And if it resonates, then and people want to go deeper, there's ways to do that as well.
yeah, and we're also going to link that to the summit page, so they can just easily access it and go get that free gifts. I mean, Sonia has some amazing value, so please don't miss out on that. And yeah, is there any last words that you have for our viewers?
I think along like your passion is to relieve suffering. That's mine too. And um, it goes back to that what I said earlier, which is just because struggle is all you've ever known doesn't mean it's the only way. And the most important, kind of like the defining moment that can help somebody find relief is simply to get to the point where say, I want to find another way. I need help. But it requires a willingness to stop trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
Stop trying to figure it out yourself. Stop, Albert Einstein says, or I think this quote's attributed to him, but it's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's
yeah,
like, if you've been doing the same thing over again and nothing's changing, you don't have to keep doing it for another 10 years to finally get to that point. It's like, you just decide you don't want to struggle anymore. Ask for help. If you just throw your hands up in the air and say, okay, show me the way, that's all you need for, the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and then follow the breadcrumbs, follow what inspires you, follow what feels right. You will be guided. People don't have to suffer. And with before social media became what it became, we would just, anything that inserted itself in our lives was maybe our local experience. Somebody had to call you on the phone to reach you, but people are literally plugged in all day long to this
yeah,
bombardment of things that makes it worse. So it's in our power, but we have to literally unplug from it, ask for help, and start inviting some new input that will
yeah,
relieve suffering. Yeah.
yeah. I could feel your heart when you were speaking in that. So thank you for sharing that. Um, and I just want to say thank you again. I appreciate you so much. And Sonia is powerful, and she has done the work, and she is a great person to connect with if you need support on your journey. So link up with her, get her book. She is amazing, and just take in the value that she has to offer. So
Well,
thank you
thank you,
again, Sonia.
Carissa. Thank you. I'm really touched and honored to support you with this event that you're doing, the summit, and the work that you're doing. Really, really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you again, and thank you all for tuning into this with Sonia and I. We appreciate you, and we just want to support you on your journey. So thank you again.